This is David Hawkins, dhienterprises.com. So I just got this camera the very same day Sony announced the a6300. So they have it poised to be basically the APS-C version of the A7S and the A7R, which I'm shooting this on now, the A7R Mark II. But let me explain to you what's really going on and why that isn't really the case. You see, every camera manufacturer has their own 5D Mark III. In the case of Sony, it's the A7R Mark II and the A7S Mark II. In the case of Canon, they have the 5D Mark III. And in the case of Nikon, they have the D810. And then every camera manufacturer has their equivalent of the Canon 7D. Nikon has the D7200, of course Canon has the 7D and now the 7D Mark II. And basically what Sony has done is they've positioned themselves to put the a6300 as their 7D. The problem with that is that the body that you get in terms of weatherproofing, in terms of the magnesium alloy, in terms of the overall build construction, the body that you get with the 7D is basically the same as the 5D Mark III body. This is not the case at all with an a6300. It's basically going to be just an upgraded version of the a6000. So, it doesn't really justify the $1,000 or €1,200 price tag. There's that, there's the fact that the battery life hasn't improved, and even more importantly, there's no in-body stabilization. Right now I'm shooting this video with the Metabones adapter on the A7R Mark II and the Canon 24 to 70 millimeter 2.8 lens. It's a great lens, extremely sharp, one of the best ever made. The only problem with it is that it has no in-lens stabilization. The problem with that is you put that on the a6300, that means that the lens isn't stabilized at all. And the way that the Sonys are sort of set up, you hit that record button on the side, you get maybe a little bit of jitter from your tripod, depending on how heavy your tripod is, of course, and what kind of setup you have. But it's not going to be stabilized. Little minor things that you wouldn't even notice on the A7R II or the A7 Mark II or the A7S Mark II. You're going to notice a lot more movement when putting that sort of a lens on the a6300. So you can't really put it up there with the pro sort of sports style photography cameras like the 7D Mark II. I mean, you might be able to get away with saying that it's something like the 60D or the 70D. It's just a little bit of a step above, but it's really more like the difference between the 700D and the 750D, or the 750D and the 760D. But the problem is the price doesn't really reflect that. I know it's really cool now that Sony has the 4K in an APS-C camera like that, but I think probably sometime this year every camera, the 800D, whatever Nikon's next camera is going to be, the D5600 or whatever, every camera that comes out this year is probably going to have 4K. So after March, that's not going to be as big of a deal anymore. And already now you have Panasonic, they have their G7 or G70, depending on where you live, camera that already has 4K in it, and it's only $600. You're going to see every camera that comes out from now on is going to have it. So as time goes on, that's going to be less and less of an issue. What I'm saying is that for the amount of money that they're charging for an APS-C camera with a really fast autofocus, which is basically what you get for the 7D, you should be getting a 7D style body, or at the very least you should be getting in-body stabilization. You should be getting a touch screen, or you should be getting a stronger, more weatherproof body. But Without those things, I really don't see how you could justify the price. So now the question for me is, do I open this or do I take it back and get the a6300? Let me know in the comments.